Welcome to Friends at Work podcast, the podcast about friendship, work, and the interrelation of the two.
Hi, this is Toye. On this episode, I had an enlightening talk with an award-winning journalist and former CNN reporter Shannon Travis. Our fun conversation cut across various topics, including how he dealt with sexual tension with a coworker and being a black minority in a white establishment. Take a listen.
My name is Shannon. My full name is Shannon Travis, but I'm not that formal. I just go by Shannon.
Hey,
first
Shay.
name basis, exactly. Or Shay if we're really close. Shay if we're really close. I am 45 years old.
Ooh, you don't look a day over 20.
I'm 45 years old. I am from Chicago, Illinois. I went to school in New York. I've lived in Washington here since 2009-ish. And I am a recovering journalist, as I like to say. I've
Nice.
covered a few presidential campaigns.
Nice.
Anybody who's ever worked in politics, political journalism, knows what that means, being a recovering journalist. About 2 years ago, I left CNN, where I had been for about 12 years, and ventured off into the world of what's the meaning of life? What do I want to do for the next phase of my life? It started off with a lot of sleep.
That's part of the meaning of life,
That
isn't
is
it?
part of the meaning of life.
Rest.
You gotta rest and let those dreams percolate so you
That's
can figure
right.
out what's next. So part of that journey landed me back in grad school. So I'm finishing up my second year up at Harvard doing an international relations program. Thank you. But part of it also made me say, this journalism background, this writing, this creativity that you've been engaged in for your entire career, you can train it and take it in a different direction. And so earlier this year, I founded a startup that does just that. We're a creative services company. We do 4 core services. We offer website design, branded messaging, strategic communications, and content creation. And so that's where I am right now.
What's the name of this startup?
It's called Hieroglyphs Content Group.
Yes.
It's kind of a play on the word
Hieroglyphics.
exactly, but we're hieroglyphs.
Nice.
And it's inspired content. Hieroglyphs. Everyone knows what that means. It's elevated content, telling a story. These Egyptian ancient symbols, kind of telling a vaunted story. It's the first, in a lot of ways, first ways of communication. We're a communications company as well. Same kind of concept. It's vaunted, higher end content. So that was what the meaning by it. I hope that people like it.
Yeah. Well, I like the sound of it, and wish you all the best with it too.
Thank you.
Who knows?
I'm putting all my chips on this.
Nice.
All my chips.
Okay, so tell us about where you work. Where's this?
Sure.
Yes.
Sure. So right now, as a part of Hieroglyphs, we obviously needed an office space, a place where we could bring our clients to and come in. And we're having a launch party coming up and meet people like you
Nice.
who are doing similarly cool things. Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so I'm dating myself with that dance.
Yes, you are.
All right.
I'm older than you,
Yeah,
I'm sure, but you're dating yourself. I would have never gone there. But yeah, so we're here at WeWork. I found WeWork through some other kind of business associates. They were at the White House location. And so I started to look into it for my own purposes. Found here, WeWork DuPont Circle, and it's pretty amazing. This is only the end of my second week.
Yeah.
So I'm still kind of getting my feet wet with where the coffee machine is, where the ice maker is. I have a bottle of wine chilling in the refrigerator right now.
Nice.
It's that kind of environment, though.
That's right.
Where everyone is coming in, executing daily on their dreams, but they're also having fun.
Exactly.
They're also cool. They're also young.
Yeah.
Not everyone's so young. I'm not so young. But young in thought. Young
Exactly.
in spirit.
You're starting something new,
That's right.
fresh.
That's right. That's right.
It's like a little plant that you're trying to water and hoping that it's going to grow into a big tree.
That's exactly right.
Kind of thing.
That's exactly right. And not a weed.
Another
Hopefully
weed.
not a weed. Hopefully not a weed.
Ooh.
Well,
hey,
right.
I'm not saying I'm 420 friendly, but you know how it is.
Well,
weed has several
medicinal.
means. It could get you happy, because
I wasn't going there, but that's not a bad thought either. That's not a bad thought either.
So, friends at work. This as our listeners know, this podcast is primarily about friendships at work.
Right.
and the different stories that people have with bringing their whole selves to work. What are the stories about the challenges, about the joys of being yourself? Because one of the things I notice, and people know this, is that we spend most of our waking hours at work.
Absolutely.
And it feels like some of us, part of what causes a lot of depression, anxiety, fear, unhappiness is the challenges of working with the people we work with.
That's right.
And so this podcast is about finding stories of both the good, the bad, and the ugly, of finding friendship at work and what it is about.
Yeah.
And so what has that, just given that general background, how has your experience been? For instance, what would be your earliest memory of a friend at work that you made?
So, Ade, from the moment that I met you and you started to describe this concept to me, I was instantly fascinated.
Yeah.
Because I think it's a topic that impacts every working person, but not a topic that's really ever explored, right? I mean, everyone has friends at work, or is friendly with people at work. But
Hopefully.
It's something that you don't talk about outside of telling your girlfriend or your husband or your wife or whatever, or people close to you. I like this person, I hate this person, or whatever. It seems to me nothing that really gets a decent public airing like this. So I was instantly impressed and happy to be involved when you introduced it to me.
Thank you.
So my earliest memory of a friend at work would have to go back to high school.
Huh.
Yeah, would have to go back to high school. I went to high school in Chicago.
Okay.
And I had a job at a place called Let Them Eat Cake. Now, I'm probably dating myself. This was a bakery that is no longer around. I think
Let Them Eat Cake.
Let Them Eat Cake. If it's like a play on Marie Antoinette's a quote attributed to her. I'm not even sure if she said it or not. But yeah, it was called Let Them Eat Cake. And I was employed there in downtown Chicago.
Okay.
While I was in high school. And I want to set this up right. It's my earliest memory of a friend, but it's not anyone that had a significant impact in my life.
Okay.
I can give you other people who've had significant impacts as this conversation goes forward. But I had a friend there, and it was a female, and she was a bit older. So I guess the dynamic was young, green, yet handsome young man against more seasoned female woman, and I don't even know to this day whether the dynamic was more mentor, more motherly, more maternal, or more kind of MILF. I can say that on your podcast.
You can say anything.
More kind of, we could go in the back room and really bake some things.
Oh
up.
my gosh.
I cannot say which it was. But even at an early age, at Let Them Eat Cake, I knew that there was something interesting about making friends at work.
Okay,
So
that sounds good. Oh, I mean that's well, it's a start into this conversation. MILF. Okay.
As long as I'm okay to say things like that, it's reality.
It's reality. So, How would you describe some of the more interesting relationships you've had at work?
Sure.
Has generally the kind of impact
Sure.
that you've had, or people have had, or the kind of relationships you've had with colleagues or people who work in other businesses that are close to yours,
Sure.
that you kind of like connect with?
So
How's that
because
impacted
I'm
you?
a man of a certain age, and by that I mean 45, I can say that I've spent 20 years in the workplace. So I have a little bit of knowledge of how some of these relationships can go, both good and bad. And I think overall, having good friends at work or friendly relations with people at work can make the difference between whether you're happy every day you go to work or you're sad. I have been in situations, and I've seen people in situations where they hate everyone that they work with. It's just like oil and water. They're not mixing, and every day they dread going to work.
Yeah.
Even if you love the nature of your responsibilities, or even if you've got a great boss, having people beside you that you don't like or that you don't get along with can make for an awful work experience.
Yeah.
You've got to deal with these people. You can't wall yourself around. The converse is also true, that having good relationships with people that you work with can make for a great workplace. And again, neither is automatically true, but typically they are. For me, I remember, I'll give you one example of a situation where I loved my job, but I had a sort of rocky relationship with some of the people. So in my former life, I was an engineer. I went to NYU, I graduated, I started working at, I guess I can say where I worked at. I worked at Verizon. At the time, it was Bell Atlantic, then it got bought, and it became 9X, and then it became Verizon, the national company now. So anyway, so I was an engineer there doing telecommunications engineering, and fresh out of college, we got hired onto an engineering team that, if I'm being honest, that really, really needed integration. It was basically older white men on this team for a long time, right? So again, nothing wrong with that, except that the company felt like they needed to diversify the team because it just had been one way for so long. And so the company made a decision to bring in a group of young minority engineers who were whip smart and qualified, but just were different than what they were used to.
Yeah,
so,
culturally different.
Ethnically different,
even
backgrounds, diversity of backgrounds. And so I remember it was about 5 of us, 3 men. We were all, one was Haitian, I believe. There was a Haitian woman, there was me, there was another Caucasian woman. So, between women and minorities, there were about 5. There were definitely 5 of us. And so we're on this team, and you could feel, Ade, that the existing team was a little skeptical about this integration plan. You could just kind of feel it.
It sounds like when schools were integrated.
They were a little bit skeptical. But so let's go forth. So, work is being done because that's what we're there for, and we are trying to kind of ingratiate ourselves to their culture, but also just express our own culture. And so things are going okay. I won't say well, but things are going okay, meaning that there are no tensions as of yet. So I developed a project, and I won't bore you with all the details, but one of my first assignments was to develop a platform, a way for our team in Boston and our team in our New York office there to kind of be able to communicate with each other, so that if you were an engineer and you had a project, we built T1s and T3s and optical networks and telecommunications networks for big companies. If you had a project for Acme Company, the old way that they were doing things was you would keep your own notes, and they would be, on your desk or notepads or maybe on your computer. But if you were away, I had no way of seeing what was the last thing you were doing. Yeah, with Acme. If Acme called while you were away, no one knew because all of your notes and statuses or whatever were in your head or on your desk.
And this is way before cloud computing.
This is way before that. So I developed a database that was basically like a central depository. You know what? Everybody updates this database with what they have, and then everyone can go into it. Okay, so I won't bore you anymore with the text specs of that. It became a bit of a sensation within our department because it was just like one of those, aha, why haven't we been doing this before? So much so that my district manager, so like my high level person, before you start to get into those VP ranks or whatever, she goes, Shannon, this is awesome. Secondly, we want to deploy this across our Boston and New York office. And thirdly, and this is probably where all the trouble started, I want you to go and train everybody in both offices on how to use your database. Well, that became a bit of a problem. Like, I was happy to do it.
Yeah.
But again, this young, hotshot, whippersnapper, I won't even put race in there. Maybe it was just a, maybe it was just a young, hotshot whippersnapper coming in to tell these, older people, these older experienced,
mostly
perhaps
white
like I don't
people.
like to co-sign everything to race, but I believe that race is a real factor.
Yeah.
So for now, we'll say young, hotshot whippersnapper.
Okay.
Versus the old heads.
All right.
Who are you to come and tell us what to do? And so I'm only executing the plan that my district manager said that, I'm doing what I'm supposed to do.
Yeah.
And so as I go about training people on this database, and it's being mostly well received, there was this one engineer, and I am going to name check him. His name was Randy Brundage. I will never forget it.
Oh, my.
Randy Brundage was our team lead. So he was kind of the head engineer. Not the boss, but like the leader of the entire team.
Okay.
And I'll never forget him pulling me into a conference room. And it still gives me chills to this moment because it was the first time, I guess I was just starting out my professional career. It was the first time I had really been confronted at work. And he pulled me into a conference room and he said, Shannon, people around here think you're arrogant. And they think you need to, kind of humble yourself more and stop that people think you're grandstanding. And I just remember in that moment feeling completely demoralized, feeling completely confused, like I thought I was only doing my job. I wasn't trying to be any of those things. And I just remember feeling awful. Years later, I realized, Ade, that was what he wanted me to feel. Years later, I realized that arrogant is often that kind of dog whistle code word for stay in your place, for know your place. It was years later I realized that it was, look, young whippersnapper, black young man. I'm from Staten Island, my whole kind of background comes to bear, and I don't like that you are coming in here and being impressive.
Yeah.
So that was an example of a friend at work not going well. I remember in the days after that, even in the months after that, me essentially walking on eggshells.
I know.
Randy and the team.
Honestly, I know how that can feel. I've had similar experiences at work, and that's why at some point, if you noticed, and for our listeners, you probably didn't see, you couldn't see this, but I covered my eyes because I knew that feeling exactly where you come in and everybody's like, who are you?
Yeah.
We've been here for years and you're going to tell us how to do our job?
Right. Especially when they didn't have a say and it's like you're just forced on them.
Exactly. And it's not like you wanted this in the first place. She just happened to bring an idea that worked better than what they had.
That's right. And we want to be clear that this isn't a racial thing.
No.
You know,
I mean, in the context
in
which
a generational thing.
Even in the context in which I just spoke, my experience, it was same race.
Yeah.
So it's not a racial thing.
That's right. My situation happened to have a bit of a racial dynamic. In that,
I do understand that.
There was a concerted effort by the company to diversify the team. Randy probably had some racial animosities going on, but that was just one person in particular. But in general, I agree with you. I don't think that this is a racial thing. I think it can be generational, where the young ideas, the idealistic set kind of clashes with the conventional types.
Exactly. That's a very good example you gave. Thank you very much for that. And okay, so we've looked at, and you gave, I can't say how I love the example you just gave about this.
The best examples are the most real ones.
So let's look at some of the more interesting. Also, you see, it's easy to look at friends at work from, I had a bad experience or I had a good experience. But I think there are those nuanced experiences, nuanced relationships where have you had a relationship, particularly with the opposite gender, where either of you was not on the same page? You know, you were like, oh, I'm being friends here, but this person wants something different, or I want something different, but this person just wants friends, and especially those kind of things, because I know this happens. After 20 years of work, you should have at least one of those experiences.
So here, I won't name check.
Okay, do not. Okay,
she may be listening. But so now, fast forward years later to my career at CNN. I was a writer and producer there, and then left as a reporter. But during my writing and producing days, so we normally, when you write on a show, you normally work in teams.
Okay.
So let's say you're working on Anderson Cooper's show, and he has an hour-long show, and there's scripts. There are a certain number of scripts that you have to get written, and he's reciting them from prompter or what have you. So you work in teams.
Yeah.
And typically for an hour-long show, there may be a 3-person, maybe a 4-person team. But typically, even within that team, it's kind of like even more subset. So like me and you will handle what we call the A and B blocks. So like the first 15 minutes and the second 15 minutes until the half hour. Then the other 2 writers will write the C and D blocks.
Okay.
All right. So sorry for getting so
No, but this is fine. At least to understand the context.
Yeah. So my partner, for even on the 4-person team, she and I had a interesting dynamic. And again, she was an older woman. She was a very beautiful woman. And I was younger, and she kind of brought me in under her wing because I was good, but I wasn't as experienced as her in terms of writing. And with writing, you've got to be fast, you've got to be creative, you've got to know how to break news, like you've got to have all those skill sets. So because of the kind of trial by fire, the daily grind that you have to get the show up on the air, we became fairly close. So then we started to hang out a little bit outside of work. It just started off just going to have a drink after work, going to have dinner. Sometimes it would be in the context of our other writers or other coworkers, but then sometimes it would be just the 2 of us. And I remember feeling she was flirting a little bit, right? And it just started off with just little flirtatious little comments that you just kind of laugh off, whatever. And then it would be like a licking of the lips, like I'm not making this up. Okay. And I'm a man, so I'm gonna return a little bit of that, but I'm not seriously entertaining it.
Yeah.
Right? So that kind of happened for a while, and on one drunken night, and again, we had established a pretty deep rapport by then.
Yeah.
She just kind of made a remark that was pretty indicative of, okay, if I really wanted this to go down right now, it could go down. And by go down, I don't mean bake cookies. And I just remember saying, now I'm older now, I'm more mature. I remember saying, I don't think that's gonna work. I mean, we work so closely together. I mean, the dynamic of our team and the nature of our work, there can be no tension. Like there can't be any drama or whatever. And I remember her. She wasn't aggressive, but I remember her being pretty insistent on how it could work. And for her, if I'm being honest, it wasn't to have a relationship. It was to have some fun. So I want to be clear that like I didn't turn her down. I didn't go like, no. I just remember, because I could have, but I just remember thinking, this is probably going to turn out bad. So I made like a calculated decision to like, you know what, I'm not going to go there. But I'll tell you this much. That tension between us, it probably made the tension even worse.
Wow.
That we had walked up to the line and didn't cross it, pulled back. That made the tension even worse. Sometimes just doing it may relieve all that tension.
Well, we're not saying just do it. This is not Nike.
We're not saying just do it.
Yeah, I understand. And so now, from the stories you've shared, and I want to thank you again for being so open and honest and sharing with us on the show. What would you say to generally looking at friendships at work? What advice would you give, say, to your younger self about from what you've learned,
awesome
how
question.
to manage the different dynamics? Because you meet all sorts of people, at work, and people in different. So coming from a psychological background, let's say people are in different emotional states, and when you come to work, you come for a shared objective that you're paid for, but people, you don't forget maybe one of your colleagues just got dumped, or someone just got married, someone just had a kid, somebody had an argument with the spouse or the partner. Everybody's bringing all those emotions to work. Some people are extroverts, some people are introvert. All of those dynamics come to play in the general day-to-day interaction. So now, having met all sorts of people at work, what could you say to your younger self?
Awesome question.
Say, how do you navigate all this river of dynamism?
If I were talking to my younger self based on my older self's experience with friends at work, I would counsel younger Shannon to not go towards any extremes, either extreme. I would counsel younger Shannon to not go to the extreme of walling himself off completely from friends at work, because you hear people say it's just not worth it, and leave work at home. Leave work at work. When you walk out the door, you have no ties to these people. I would counsel younger Shannon to reject that extreme, and I would counsel younger Shannon to reject the other end of the spectrum. Be super friendly. Be over at their houses all the time and have them over your house. Hang out with them, regularly after work. Get drunk in front of them. Do odd things just to kind of show them who you are and, make your relationship at work stronger. I would counsel younger Shannon to say, look, you need to maintain friendly ties and friendly relations with your coworkers, because it makes for a better workplace. The teamwork is better. The workflow during work hours is better. But at the same time, you have to have some limits. And so what I mean by limits is I probably shouldn't be getting drunk with my coworkers. Maybe that's not to say a drink, but like shit face, probably not. I probably shouldn't be too involved in my coworkers' personal lives. I've had some situations where I've become really close with a coworker, and they're telling me about their boyfriend and how, he's not this and they're having problems, and what would you do, Shannon, if I had this problem? And she's talked about sex with her boyfriend. That's probably too much. The question becomes, how would I counsel younger Shannon to handle those things when they come up.
Okay.
So when the coworker is telling you about the boyfriend or the sex or the this, that, what does younger Shannon say? And if I'm being honest, I think younger Shannon should probably go. So not be so off-putting where like, this is uncomfortable. This is, like, don't make a big deal out of it, but just go, you know what? I don't want to be I don't want to be talking about you and your boyfriend's personal relationship. This is probably not good for me or for you. Like, make light of it, but kind of be firm that this is an area that I don't really feel comfortable.
You don't want to
into
cross
and
that
not
line.
make a big deal out of it.
Exactly.
So that's what I would counsel young Shannon. Neither extreme.
That's good. Well, I kind of agree with you, but I don't have to, but I totally kind of agree.
The world according to me.
That's right. But thank you so much, Shannon, for coming on the show. I think this has been a very exciting conversation, and I'm sure not just myself, but our listeners are learning from your experience. And just before you go, could you tell us a bit more about your company again, and
Sure.
if there's any upcoming events that
Sure.
you might want us to know about, or your products again? Just let us know.
Sure, yeah. Just really briefly, it's a Higherglyphs content group. The website is higherglyphs.com, higherglyphs.com. We're a creative services company. You can find more about us there. There's a really cool animated video that we produced to kind of explain why we're new and why we're different. And we're going to have a launch party here at WeWork, right where we are.
Nice.
Coming up. We're shooting for July 20th.
Nice.
We're still trying to like firm that date up. But it's going to be pretty cool. We're going to introduce ourselves to the world, just let everyone know that we're here. And we hope that we get some attention. Look, we can't compete with the big boys, the Madison Avenues or whatever just yet. It's okay though, because there's a whole market of small and medium-sized startups and early businesses that need these services, that need professional premium creative services, but can't go to Madison Avenue.
Exactly.
So I'm okay being in this lane. I'm okay being in this lane. So we're excited. Like I said, I'm putting all my bets on this. All my bets. We've already had a few clients that are very happy with our services, and we just hope to have more.
All right. Wish you all the best.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Friends at Work with Toye, and to my guest Shannon for being so open and engaging in our conversation. I wish him all the best in his new business endeavor. I hope you enjoyed our conversation too. What stood out to you most? Please share your thoughts with me via email or social media. You can connect with me on Twitter at Friends at Work US, and like the podcast Facebook page at Friends at Work Podcast. Also, tell your friends and colleagues about this podcast. The Twitter handle again is Friends at Work US, and the Facebook page is Friends at Work Podcast. If you have a topic you want me to explore or know someone interesting that I should talk to, or just want to say hello, please email me at myfriendtoye@gmail.com. That's my friend Toye@gmail.com. I'd really love to hear from you. If you enjoyed listening, kindly give me a 5-star rating on iTunes. It will help new listeners discover the show faster. All the music on this podcast was produced by Austin Foster. He worked his magic to make the production sound better. Thanks, Austin. Join us next time for another episode of Friends at Work with Toye. Till then, keep smiling, help a stranger, lend a helping hand to a neighbor. In so doing, you make a tough world more bearable, even enjoyable for others and yourself. Bye for now.